Good morning, everyone. Mike Hildreth, Nebraska Attorney General. Thanks for being here. We've got two from the Examiner today. I don't know who's the designated survivor for your team. Reminder, afterwards I'll take questions here, as many questions as you like, on whatever topic we have time for, and then also online in the media advisory, if you want a text message, you can text your questions to Suzanne. We'll take questions at the end. So good morning, everyone. Today, we're announcing a landmark lawsuit against Roblox. One of the most important things that we do in this office is we protect kids. We protect kids from predators. We protect kids from online services that would do them harm, that would take advantage of them, and that would exploit them. And Roblox is a company that either facilitates or does all of those things. The lawsuit was filed in Adams County, Nebraska. I'll tell you why here at the end. We filed it within the last hour. So let me give you a little bit of background. You may have heard of Roblox, you may understand what that is. A lot of people have, maybe not everyone understands what it is and what the problems are that are associated with Roblox. So Roblox is an online gaming platform. It's the largest in the world. There are hundreds of millions of active users who use Roblox. You may have seen it if you have kids or nieces or nephews. Roblox, it markets itself as a place where kids can go and play all sorts of different games. The games can be created by other developers, third-party developers, other users. Those games are usually marketed as things that have a lot of educational benefit. Kids can learn math, or they can learn other languages, or they can play Legos with their friends. It's a place where people can dialogue with one another, so you can both communicate via direct message, but you can also communicate via a voice system where people can talk over the network. If that's all that it was, we wouldn't be here today. The problem is that is not how Roblox is constructed. And instead of having the guardrails that we would expect of a company that's focused on actually monetizing directly children, in some cases as young as 4, the guardrails that would be in place to stop predators are nowhere to be seen. And what it has amounted to, I believe, is a playground for predators in Nebraska and around the world. So what are the problems with Roblox? Well, there's really two significant ones. One is something that we've seen in other social media contexts, which is the flooding of inappropriate content to kids. So in TikTok, you may remember when we sued TikTok, the algorithm would show kids as young as 10 or 8 things that would glorify suicide, would help drive suicidal ideation or body dysmorphia, would glorify drug use or pornography, things that are totally inappropriate for kids of that age. That's the kind of things that you can actually find on Roblox. Usually, it's in the context of these experiences. The experiences are really just another name for the game. Someone will develop a game, and then they'll put the game on Roblox, and then the kids can play those particular games. There are experiences on Roblox that are absolutely outrageous. I'll just give you a couple of examples. There's an experience, or has been an experience on Roblox, where you can go visit Epstein's Island. There's an experience on Roblox where you can recreate school shootings. There are experiences on Roblox where you go to KKK rallies or Nazi rallies. There are experiences that are clubs. There are experiences that enable sexual assault or abuse. There was one story of a mother whose 7-year-old daughter, or maybe 7 or 9-year-old daughter, was on a game where her avatar, her physical representation in the online world, virtual representation of her on the online world, was sexually assaulted. So the first thing that is wrong with Roblox is that kids are inundated with terrible content that they shouldn't have. The second is that they are also exposed to predators. And there may be no bigger, more or less secure online playground for predators in the entire world. The stories of these predators are legion. They're all over the place, including Nebraska, where there was someone in Adams County filed a lawsuit last year in federal court discussing his experience as a John Doe, his experience having a predator who groomed him, enticed him, and eventually sexually assaulted him right here in Nebraska. The stories are even worse than that. There's an online group called 764, which is a sadistic hate group, extreme group, that has encouraged young children to kill animals, to commit suicide, to carve usernames into their arms. And some of this is very disturbing, not appropriate for a broader audience. There are online podcasts. There are other resources where you can actually hear audio versions of these clips of these evil people enticing children to do these kinds of things. One place you go to would be the Sean Ryan podcast. There's been a lot around the internet. But I would say user and viewer beware, because this is extremely disturbing. The most evil parts of the human heart are seen in these types of activities. Now, why is this all happening on Roblox? The reason it's happening is because they have not done what they should do, which is put in place the basic security provisions that will ensure that the kids cannot actually be predated or are not exposed to this type of material. Now, they have said, and this is the core of our lawsuit, they have said that they do all these things. And the only reason I brought this sheet with me is I have a quote, 2 quotes of things they've said online, or to parents, and I have 4 young kids, so I'm part of their audience, that are absolutely 100% false. One of the things they say is that they have one of the safest online environments for our users, particularly the youngest users, and they also say they take every precaution possible. Neither of those 2 things are true. And let me just give you a couple key pieces of the platform that don't work the way that we would want them to work if we actually were truly caring about protecting kids. The first is they have no verification system of really any kind. They just started rolling out a facial AI system, which, as we know in the industry, is not something that's on its own can do really any sort of verification as an independent way of verifying identity. So kids as young as 6 can say that they're 13, 14, get around all the parental control restrictions. Conversely, predators can actually go online if they're 30 and they can say that they're 6. So if you're a 6-year-old, my son's 7. My son could be online on Roblox. It's not allowed or not, but he could. He could play what he thinks is a 7-year-old boy from around the street. And in reality, it could be a 25-year-old man who's there to do him harm. So the first thing is the age verification is the systems are not in place to actually protect kids in that way. The second thing is it's entirely anonymous. Roblox does not actually request anyone's name. There's no way to tie an individual to a specific identity. So even if someone is caught doing something wrong and they get kicked off the platform, they literally can sign the same day, just with a different username and a different email. And if you are a predator trying to seek out children and do them harm, one of the things that you want is anonymity. So it gives them direct access to children in a way that's very anonymous. In addition, even though Roblox has said that they've done certain things like restrict direct messaging, which is kind of a best practice that you've seen in other social media companies, so that adults can't prey on children, maybe restrict the voice functionality that I told you about before. In the experiences themselves, so say the one in which people could go shoot up children at school, that those restrictions are not in place. So a developer could develop a new game, put it on their system, and they would be able to communicate with adults being on the system, either voice or direct messaging. The games themselves, it is sort of, the developers get to grade their own homework. So when they submit their game to the system to be onboarded, they can say it's available for all ages. And there's no independent verification on the front end by Roblox to say that these programs actually not available, should be seen or used or any way available to kids under the age of 13. After the fact, Roblox might act, but that doesn't absolve any of the harm that these particular experiences can cause. Those are just some of the things and the ways that the Roblox platform could, if they so chose, to actually do the right thing to ensure that kids are safe. Instead, they have created gaping gates through which innumerable predators are going around the country. And by the way, I'm not exaggerating and I'm not being hyperbolic when I talk about the harm that's being caused. There are stories all around the country, including in Nebraska. I mentioned one. There's an Omaha man who is arrested for using Roblox to prey on kids in Florida. This is a national and it is an international playground for predators. This is no exaggeration. Every parent in Nebraska should be aware of the harms of Roblox. The lawsuit we have filed was in Adams County, as I mentioned. One of the questions that sometimes comes up is why the rationale from why we were filing in different places. Really the nexus of the one harm that we know, well, we know there are other harms. I shouldn't say that. Even yesterday we got a call from a teacher talking about the grooming that is happening in their particular school. So it's happening around Nebraska, we believe, but there was a direct harm in Adams County from an individual in Nebraska who's filed suit, and so we thought it was appropriate to file that one particularly there. To give you just a sense of the way that the grooming has worked in other cases that we've seen, if you have, I mentioned a 7-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl who's online, you can pretend, if you're a predator, you can pretend that you're of their age, your age range. One of the things that people will do is they use the online currency. So most apps, most games have online currency. In this context, it's called Robux. Kids want Robux. A lot of kids want Robux. these predators will use that desire for Robux against the children. And so they'll say, we'll give you Robux if you take this conversation offline onto Discord or onto Snap or something like that. We'll give you Robux if you give me a revealing picture. And these kids, who are kids, have their defenses even further lowered because they're thinking they're talking to someone who's of their age and someone that they can trust. And what happens is, after they have their hooks in them, then they can manipulate them to do all sorts of bad things, some of which I've already mentioned, including up to suicide and causing harm to others. It's one of the most egregious examples that we've seen in this space. We've been leading on we've been leading on protecting kids, whether it's social media or in this case, and this is incredibly egregious. And I just want every parent in Nebraska to know that they should be on the lookout to protect their kids. The stories we've heard, by the way, are that this can happen very, very fast. There's one dad who said he was very diligent supervising his children on Roblox, and within hours, he just wasn't around. Within hours, his kid was hooked once he looked back at some of the chat history. And it's just incredible. It's also very difficult to tell sometimes that your kid is even if they're on Roblox, is even doing anything inappropriate, because some of these games look like they're for children. So if you walk by the computer, you're trying to be someone who's actually overseeing what your child is doing, you can actually think that they are on a safe platform when in fact they're in the middle of a conversation with a potential predator. So we filed the lawsuit. We're going to seek any and all damages, including injunctive relief. So we're seeking penalties under our penalty power. We will absolutely seek restitution for customers who have been harmed. I told you Robux, people pay money. I don't think they should be paying money to have their children, their child or someone in their community being harmed. And we will seek injunctive relief, as I mentioned, as well. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Yeah, Juan?
How did this come to your attention?
We've been very active. So the question is, how did this case come to our attention? We've been a very active one in this broad speaking social media space. We were one of the first to sue on the TikTok example. We're leading the charge on Insta. Roblox has been on our radar for some time. We've kind of really, so maybe a year or so, and so part of the investigation, the work that we needed to do to kind of work up the case, really kind of picked up in earnest in the summer and fall. It became very clear that we needed to actually make a move. But we are constantly looking for these types of services. There's another service, I won't name them now because they're closed down, they're defunct. But even 2 years ago, there was a service that people use that connected kids with strangers online, which is sort of like the definition of a predator's playground. So we're always looking for whatever the next new service is, and this one is just, it's hard to not know of Roblox. I remember Roblox. My daughter, who is now 14, gave me a presentation about a year ago. PowerPoint presentation, it was very good. And if I didn't know anything about what I knew, I probably would have allowed her to use it. And, so it's out there. A lot of parents know about it. And so our investigation started in earnest last summer. John.
From your investigation so far, do you have a ballpark estimate of how many customers there are in Nebraska and how many customers have been harmed by Roblox?
We don't have a detailed answer to that, John.
Sure.
The question is what the degree of harm. We can extrapolate from some national numbers, at least in terms of the users. So the data that we have suggests that 2/3 of kids nationally between the ages of 9 and 12 use Roblox. So if you extrapolate that number to Nebraska, it's pretty significant. Now, what level has been harmed? We'll have to get into discovery. And part of the reason to do a press conference today is we want to hear from more parents and more teachers and more children. We want people to step up and know that they've got a safe space to come and actually share their story. I'm afraid to speculate, but I do think that the harm is going to be much more than we think it is in terms of kids who've been impacted. Yes?
This being a national issue, like you said, are you aware of any other states forming litigation against Roblox?
Yeah, it's a good question. Other states, the question is about other states filing lawsuit against them. There have been some other, we're in the first, we've been really leading the charge around the country. We aren't the first, but we're one of the first. We're in the first maybe 10 or so to sue. I would wager that within the next 2 or 3 years, most, if not nearly all, if not all the states will ultimately file litigation. Yeah, Darsha?
Outside of restitution, what are you hoping? Structural changes, outside monitoring? Do you want this to just not be available to kids in Nebraska?
Yeah, it's a great, so Darsha's question, besides the monetary, what's sort of our injunctive relief, what other changes? It's a good question, and I wouldn't want to cap myself on my requests, but at this early stage, at a minimum, what we're looking for are some of the basic blocking and tackling restrictions that we know work. So as an example, having an actual age verification system. So think about everything that I shared with you and just flip it on its head. So they don't actually verify ages today. So what we'd like to see is actually age verification. They allow anonymous users, which is insane. We would like to see some sort of actual tying of users because we need to be able to trace these predators, and they shouldn't be able to just get kicked off for bad acts and come back the next day and do it again. It seems to me a no-brainer for them to actually aggressively on the front end verify these experiences before they get put onto the platform. You know, companies like Apple can do that with their app store. There's no reason why they can't. By the way, I didn't mention this in my opening remarks, but if you actually read or watch their comments on because they're a publicly traded company that's worth tens of billions of dollars, and if you read their quarterly statements or on their press conferences with their earnings statements, they have said publicly that they want to increase their users, which of course that increases their profitability, and they have said that they want to decrease the percentage of their spend on safety. To me, what they're doing is they're prioritizing their profits over children and having a safe environment. So those are just a couple of the things that if they were truly serious, which they say they are, but they're not. They absolutely are not. They're truly serious about protecting kids. That would be a starting point. There would be more, but that would be a good set of starting point. Yes.
When you talk about, I guess, verifying the experiences, I mean, are we getting into like a kind of a free speech kind of space there where, you know, obviously some things are perhaps criminal like we described, but like, you know, we've seen Roblox be a platform for kids to kind of participate in, you know, civic discourse, protest in a way, things like that. I mean, is there sort of like a line you're looking at, or?
Well, it's a good question. So the question is, if we're talking about sort of verification, what's appropriate for kids for the experiences, does that create a free speech question? I don't think that it does. The things that we're talking about are exposing young children to violent memes. I mean, I don't think it's a free speech issue to say that children, which is a different set of, we have a sort of a different lens through which we're looking at this. Children should not be exposed to going to Jeffrey Epstein's island virtually, or being exposed to places where they can shoot up a school. I don't think that in any way implicates free speech concerns. Yes?
This is unrelated to Roblox, but recently, the Nebraska soldier just passed in Kuwait, and I was just wondering if you had a comment on that loss for Nebraskans.
It's devastating. Any loss of life, I can't imagine the feeling of his family right now. He's a public servant of the highest order to be serving his family, and one day to get the call. I just can't imagine what they're going through. My prayers of my prayers, my family's prayers for him, his family, and everyone who serves in our armed forces in that area of danger right now is at the top of our minds. Yes, Tarsha.
Gubernatorial candidate J.C. Todd said he has asked your office for a full pardon. Do you have any comment on your position on that?
The question is about Mr. Todd's request for pardon. So we have a process for the Board of Pardons, and anyone can apply for a pardon. But we want to respect the process and the way that it works for everyone else, no matter if they've been convicted a week ago or 10 years ago, is they fill out an application, they make the request, it goes through the Crime Commission's team to be able to sort everything through. So I would encourage anyone who would like to receive a pardon to go through that process. Yeah, John.
The state auditor referred his findings to your office earlier regarding the $2.5 million no-bid contract. Have you guys looked into that? Will you guys?
Yeah, so John's question is about the no-bid contract referral, which has been publicly reported. I won't comment, John, on any specific, we would not comment generally on any criminal investigation, the existence of one or not the existence of one. I don't think that's fair to the people who might or might not be investigated. In general, I've described sort of the process that happens when an auditor referral comes in. An auditor referral comes in, we review it to see whether or not there's a probable cause to investigate. Sometimes there's not. And the auditor has to send us his findings. They do an amazing job. They don't always, sometimes they identify something to look at, sometimes they don't. And we work collaboratively with them. They do great. If there's an investigation, we give it to a law enforcement agency. They do the investigation. They come back, and then there's charges filed or not filed. That's the general process, and that process we will follow with any referral from the auditor's office in any context.
So can you tell us if you're still in the review process?
I won't speak to any, beyond saying that we've received the referral, I don't have any other comment, John. Yeah, Suzanne.
I'm going to interject. We've had 20 people consistently online, so if we can stay on task here.
Oh,
I've got Bloomberg asking on the lawsuit, given the broader interest in Roblox and kids' safety across the states, how much collaboration and information sharing occurred with other states ahead of the filing of the suit? And then I have a follow-up after.
Yeah, so the question is about sharing with other states. We have hired outside counsel on this who represents other states, and so we're going to leverage their knowledge to no cost to the taxpayer, by the way. Nebraska taxpayers won't pay for expenses or fees on this case. And they've represented other states, and so we'll be able to leverage the knowledge that they have.
Cassandra has a second question, also curious how much of Roadblocks' practices uncovered during the investigation would run against the state's age verification law, and whether this offers any lessons for the types of practices the state could and would be scrutinizing.
So it's questions about our age verification law. I think, I guess it's public, so you could quote me on this, but maybe don't quote. I think that the statute that was passed carved out gaming platforms from their age verification law. So I don't think it's included. Is that right? Am I saying that's correct? Yeah. Yeah. Darcy.
What would your message be to parents in Nebraska who might have kids on this app right now? Do you want them to delete it? What would your message be?
So as a dad of 4 kids, I don't let them on at all. What I know about Roblox and some of these social media companies more broadly, I don't let them on. Each parent's got to make their own decision. I would just say, educate yourself, read as much about our complaint as you can, talk to your child, and make your own informed decision. And if you do let them on, be aware of the ways that the system can break down, and please please make sure that you're doing everything you can to diligently watch your child's use.
A follow-up to that, you said you were hoping that by having this press conference, parents would reach out to you. How can they do that if they have experienced this, if their child has experienced this? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the best way is to maybe call our CART group, 402-471-2682, and they can have the intake confidentially, and that's a great way to get in front of us. Yeah. And if there are I did say that we could have I did say you could ask about anything. So are there any other questions online? Okay. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Since the conflagration started in the Middle East, the prices at the pump have gone up a lot, skyrocketed. Is your consumer protection team kind of monitoring that for price gouging? Is that something that you guys have looked into?
So John's question is about price gouging with oil service. That has not come to our radar, so that is not something that we have seen or that I'm aware is happening in Nebraska. We have an outstanding consumer protection group. We only have 6 lawyers in that group, run by, I think, the best consumer chief in the country, B.B. Sternad. They will protect consumers in all corners of the state, and so if they do see something that's unlawful under our laws, we will look at it and take action. But up to now, John, we haven't seen that. Juan, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to go back to the question about the auditor's referral. I know you can't really talk about it, like you said, but could you maybe give a timeline on it, or is it just kind of a
No,
timeline to decide?
I just want to say no.
No.
But I can't, Juan, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, you have creative ways to try to get me to comment on the thing I can't comment.
Will you tell us if you're done with the review? Will you tell us?
I haven't even said what's going, so we have received the auditor's report, and that's all I can say
And
at this
then
point.
you review it, but at some point you would finish that review,
Yeah.
presumably.
All I can say publicly today, John, is that we've received the auditor's report.
All right.
Any other questions? Zach, are you just supervising today? No marijuana question? All right, well, hey, thanks everyone. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.